I'm actually blown away by the fact that Okuron's missing biology has made up the premise of 2 entire arcs, and I'm wondering how far can Yukinobo Tatsu stretch this? Because 2, I thought, is crazy, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next arc starts with Okuron missing something else. Arc 2, the Acrobatic Silky Arc. I always want to say Slinky, but it's not Slinky. The Acrobatic Silky Arc was really enjoyable now that I kind of understand what DanDaDan is. Like, DanDaDan feels very episodic. Yes, it builds off like the previous arcs of the knowledge and what they have, but it does seem very much like Yokai of the Week situation. So clearly, to me, this is becoming a character-driven plot, which is fine with me because I actually think that the character relationships in this in this manga, especially for like the age group it's targeting and it being like high school character dynamics, is really well done. I think Momo and Okuron are some of the best, like, obviously I think they're the endgame pairing, right? But I think they're like the best written complements to each other that I've read in manga for a while. Like, they're actually a very surprisingly healthy group, or a pairing that understand each other really well, even though they have their own insecurities that make them feel like they can never really connect with one another. They both understand each other's insecurities really well. And most importantly, they defend each other in really holistic ways, even when the other person doesn't even know about it. Like, Momo dropping the wash basin on Ira, I think is how you say her name, because she had been talking bad about Okuron and saying like, oh, of course he's going to grovel before me because I'm so beautiful and he's a nobody, and just the dropping of like the water basin on her head to be all like, don't talk about him that way. And then just like the cut it is to like Okuron holding up the guy when he's in his like demon possession form because he had said some very like nasty rumors about Momo, was all really well done. I enjoy their dynamic a lot. I love them when they're apart. I love them when they're together, and I love how they're always at the front of each other's mind as they explore this like really crazy world that they're in, because nothing makes a character-driven plot better than having 2 really dynamic characters that bounce off each other extremely, extremely well. That said, plot-wise, like I said, I am annoyed that Okuron's missing biology is still the driver of this plot. I think that there are other ways to get to the point where this manga ended, or this arc ended, which is a beautiful ending without the premise necessarily needing to be this absurd. I get that he finds it funny, I get that that's his comedy. It's not personally for me, but there's so many other things in this manga that I'm enjoying so much that like the potty humor is not enough to like turn me away from reading it, because I am really glad I finished this arc. Everything about this arc's villain, everything about this arc's ending, everything about that backstory that we got was just amazing, and it really goes to show that when Yukinobo Tatsu wants to write something serious, he can nail it. It was brutal at the end, but more on that later, because let's talk about like just the major plot developments of this arc right here. So like I said, Okuron's biology is still missing. The quest is to find him. Turbo Granny says that it was probably stolen and they look like these golden balls, and they need to go and collect these in order for Okuron to get his like full anatomy back. And then on top of it, it also is revealed that Okuron now has full control over Turbo Granny's powers, because Turbo Granny has been put into one of those like, you know, the Chinese cat toys that go like that? Her Turbo Granny's spirit is sealed in there, and she's kind of acting as like the Chopper, or like the pet of their group. Sorry, Chopper's more important than that, but she's acting almost as like their guide into yokai territory, like the understanding of the yokai. And I've kind of developed an attachment to her, so I hope she stays around, even though she is a little bit weird, because we learned in the end that she did have like good morals. Like, she was there to comfort women in their dying days. And I think that a woman that died traumatically in their dying moments, and I think that that's, you know, it speaks to her character more than any of her other actions. Like, she's worth having around. She's a really cool encyclopedia into the world as they travel, because the grandma can't always be with them. And I like the development. Like, she's the one who drops this major lore bomb about yokai, right? Which is that yokai spirits believe that they can come back to life if they collect enough life force, which is why they haunt the humans in the first place. And this is important because we learn that many of these yokais are not just like creations, but they used to be human beings that died in these really tragic ways, such as Acro Silky, who we're going to talk about in a minute here. Actually, we're just gonna talk about her now. Sorry, I looked at my notes. I was like, where am I going with this? But yeah, we're gonna talk about her now. So Acro Silky was this originally, like, she was this human mother who was a sex worker in order to be able to afford the needs of her child. We don't know exactly what happens, but apparently she had some kind of like outstanding debt, or a mob boss had something on her, and so her house gets broken into and her child gets stolen from her, and as a result of the trauma, she ends her own life. And so she's still so possessed by this regret, this anger that she has towards these people. She wasn't able to die without a regret. So she comes back as this Acro Slinky figure who Ira, this like tertiary character of this arc, was able to see for some reason. And I do have some theories about that, but just finishing out like the lore we get about Acro Silky here is that we learn that she is considered a lesser demon or a lesser yokai to a character like Turbo Granny, but also that spirits that, or people that die in peace, go to nirvana, which I think is a really interesting just naming of the afterlife belief that they have, just this idea of like encompassing peace. And that if a spirit, if a yokai is defeated before they're able to reconcile themselves with the status of their life, then they don't go to nirvana, instead they fade into nothingness, and that's it. And we learn that Acro Silky's like peace that she's searching for, she's trying to find her daughter, or she's latching on to these young girls that remind her of her daughter, like Ira does, because Ira in her childhood could see her, confused her as her mom who had passed away for herself, like not the same mom, but like Ira's mom had passed away, and she sees Acro Silky and she's just like, oh, you look like my mom, so she confuses her for the mom, and that just like brings her to this world where like we learn that Acro Silky's been following her, watching her, trying to like watch over her, because that's what she feels her responsibility was. And so when Ira is like unable to see that yokai as her mother anymore, because now she understands more about what's going on, it really just causes Acro Silky to lose it. And that brings us to like the main fight of this arc, which I thought was not as creative as the Turbo Granny fight was. I think the Turbo Granny fight was just like really well done, really well structured, really good way of like introducing the powers that the characters have. This one was a little bit more direct. Like, yeah, there was some trickery with the lighter being lit inside Acro Silky, and you know, the tangling of her hair on the beams to keep her in place. Like, that was cool, but it didn't hit the same thing as like that amazing scene where they're racing and then Momo like is stalling until she can grab the metro or the light rail and be able to keep pace with the thing that can run at 100 kilometers an hour after them. Like, I thought that was a little bit more creative than what we got here, but it was still really well done, drawn art. Like, Yukinobo Tatsu and his assistants who help him draw are extremely talented, and it really bleeds through all the pages. Like, there's so many stills from here that could have been a thumbnail on their own, but the artwork is actually just phenomenal all the way through, specifically in Acro Silky's human like death. I know it went viral all over the internet when it was an animation, but even in the drawing, it's so emotionally impactful that like the artwork really speaks to the struggle that these people were going through, or the combat, or the viciousness that they're all facing. The art is phenomenal, is what I mean to be saying here. And like, I guess, speaking on the combat, we get to see some ways that Momo's powers evolve, like her being able to give CPR by massaging the heart directly through her telekinesis. That was really cool. The other thing that's introduced is that the grandma has these like spiritual weapons, like she uses a fan to sever Turbo Granny from Okurun so that Okurun can keep all the spiritual power of Turbo Granny, but none of her influence. And it makes me wonder, like, if these powers exist, are our crew of characters going to get access to their own? Like, Okurun is clearly going to be more of this, like, spiritual manipulation of, like, these yokai that I imagine are going to encapsulate him. I don't think he's just going to have Turbo Granny. My prediction is that, like, he's going to evolve to have more of these spirits be able to, like, influence, and he can go into, like, different states. I think that would be really cool. That's my prediction. But, like, I feel like Momo could use some spiritual weapons, because I mean Psycho, I think is how you say her name, is, you know, her grandmother, so she should have access to the tools, and I would love to see her train with that. I think that would be really cool for her character. But the most important character in this arc, I would say, the one that gets the most focus, is Ira, who's really introduced as this Boa Hancock type arrogance that is just like, the world will bow to me because I am pretty, and that is the way that everything works. And so she also has this like ability, seemingly, to sense psychic energy. But here's where I'm confused, right? Because the Turbo Granny cat thing is just like, oh, she can see it because she had access to the ball, right, of life energy, which lets her see these things. But she was still able to see Acro Silky as a child. So my theory is that children are more perceptive to like ESP, they're more perceptive to like the yokai that walk around us, and as we get older, we learn to like block these things out of our minds, things that don't make sense, just passively. But as a kid, you see it, and then being able to hold the life force gives her back the sight. That's my only like way of reckoning these two things, because I don't know how else to do it. Because she can also see Momo's power being used, and so she believes that Momo's a demon, and this leads to a really hilarious moment where, with a crucifix and a Bible, she's trying to exorcise Momo, but like she can't because Momo is not a demon. It was actually really funny, and it's really spoke to her arrogance. This idea is just like, there's no way that something could not like me, there's no way that something could best me because I'm the best, and just the humbling that she gets throughout this arc when she sees Momo and Okuron trying to save her. And to the point that, sorry, I'm rambling, but it was really good. I liked her character a lot. And I think that her death and then return was probably one of the more emotional scenes of this, where Acro Silky shows that she really did want to be a motherly figure to a person like Aira. She wanted to be a better mother to her own kid, and she regrets those failures, those shortcomings that she had in her life, to the point that she was willing to give her remaining life energy to Aira to revive her because of what she accidentally did to her in a rage, because Aira refused to recognize her as her mother any longer. And that scene where she's just burning away and dying because she had sacrificed all her life force to revive Aira was really beautiful and really sad. And Aira going over there and hugging her and helping Acro Silky in her final moments find peace so that she could enter Nirvana was really touching. And that's why it still blows me away that this arc was started, because Okuron was missing his balls. Like, what is happening here? How does he keep getting away with this? This is the second time he's got me with this like kind of emotional or like actually very impactful ending based off a crazy premise. And like, maybe I don't like it because it's actually impressive to me. Like, is that possible? Is that possible that I'm like, how did you swing this into being like something like of a competent ending from something that seems so nonsensical? But he did it. Like, Yukinobo Tatsu, the absurdity of how his plots start and the emotional weight of how they end is just amazing. Every time I see what a starting premise is, I'm gonna be all like, okay, but I know this is gonna end with something that's gonna hurt my heartstrings or pull on my heartstrings, so I don't even know what to think. But like, the arc ends with the three of them freeing Acro Silky hopefully making it to Nirvana. We don't know for sure, but I hope I think that's what's implied. And then, like, that's it. The resolution hasn't come yet from the arc. But I like to imagine that Aira is going to become this, like, outside part. Like, I think the duo is always going to be Okuron and Momo, and they're going to go on most of the quests together. And I hope she doesn't become this, like, conflict unnecessarily. I have a feeling that she will be. They're going to run this like love triangle thing is probably my prediction. Hoping that's not the case, because I think she does have some validity to her character and like the humbling that she went through and how she is going to grow now with her like psychic powers that she probably has developed. I'm also wondering what her psychic powers are going to be, and I suppose that's probably what the next arc is going to be, because on Shonen Jump I see her character design on a lot of volume covers, so she's probably still going to come back. I just hope she doesn't come back as a tool of conflict between Momo and Okuron, because they are really the driving force of this story, and I don't need extra tension for no reason. But with all that said, did I love the Acro Slinky arc the way I love the Turbo Granny arc? Not really. I don't think that it was as strong as the Turbo Granny arc. Did I still enjoy it very much? Yes. I'm hoping that we can get not even a more serious start to the next arc, but just something that doesn't revolve potty humor would be nice. I want to be able to react to this stuff live, like on live stream, and I can't because of what I do professionally, and I just can't be up here talking about the premise that starts the arc, and that really bums me out. But outside of that, I really don't have that many complaints. I want to see a little bit more creativity, like the understanding of like being able to use the yokai's history against him, being able to see more environmental usage of the fights, because that was really impressive in Arc 1, a little bit less impressive in Arc 2. but you know, still really good, still way better than just punch something really hard type strategies that I've seen before. So really looking forward to Arc 3, really enjoying the series. And Jay, if you are watching this, thank you so much for the recommendation. Also, guys, if you've been enjoying this series, please leave a comment down below saying what your favorite arc was so that I can keep that in mind once I finally get to it. Maybe tell me who some of your favorite characters are, but try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.